trying to find the correct language. This video is for the adult children who would like a relationship with their parents, but there's past history. And the parents who would like to have a relationship with their adult children, but there's past history. Understand offense goes both ways. You weren't a perfect child. You may not have deserved your parents' tactics, but trust me, us parents are surviving children as well. And if you are a parent, you fully understand what it is to survive a child. Anyway, what I wanted to suggest to sis, because I told her I would make her a video, was possibly going to your father. If you guys have the maturity to do this, go to your father, because I'm giving you the idea, not him, so he's not going to come to you because he doesn't have the idea. You could probably send him the video and say, hey dad, this is what I want you to do. But go to your father and say, hey, can we establish a relationship from today forward? The reason why I suggest that is the desire to have a relationship is there. The issue is every time we talk about the past, it implodes. Don't talk about the past. Something that God told me when I was resolving issues with people was when you try to create the space to resolve issues, now you're moving within your own agenda. We have to understand that it's either free will or God's will. Those are the two options. You gonna do what you want to do, or you gonna do what God is telling you to do. God knows your heart's desires. God knows you want to resolve this, but God's going to do it in God's time. Something that I read in the book of Job, that was a toughie. I thought I liked that book until I realized how much trauma dumping, it was a lot. It was heavy. I know it was a lot. I know it's not trauma dumping, but I can't put the language on what that was. It wasn't complaining. It was a lot. It was wordy, and I'm a wordy person, but I was like, Lord Jesus. I gleaned, but it was a lot. Don't get caught up on my use of, I don't know how to identify what the book of Job was, but I had to force myself to read it because it was a lot. Anyway, when the young man started speaking, I don't remember his name, but he said, I used to think that wisdom had to do with old age, but I understand that wisdom and understanding are two different things, and you know I'm paraphrasing y'all. I understand that wisdom and understanding are two different things, and understanding is granted from God. So it's not enough to have wisdom. It is applied wisdom, i.e. understanding. It's not enough to know. It's the ability to utilize what you know to grow, okay? So with that understanding, when you go with your set agenda to try to go heal a relationship with someone, if that person has not been granted divine understanding, it's not going to happen. But if you go to that person, you're like, you know what, I would just like to be friends with you. Let's build some trust. They're like, I would like that. And just start hanging out like a new person that you just met. Now, this is maturity, because the parents probably like sitting around in their guilt energy. That's a choice. Release that, because this is a new being. This human that is sitting in front of you isn't even in the body. The physical representation, the mental space, the emotional, everything, and the everything, I'm not going to go on that road, but the everything that you caused that trauma to no longer exists except for the memories, right? And we're going to address the memories. But you sitting here in guilt of something that you did, but you don't have the understanding to truly understand, because you know when we wrong somebody, we be like, oh, we should go apologize. If you haven't, you should. I go and apologize to people years, decades later. I'd be like, you remember? They're like, no. Well, I wanted to apologize because I finally understood. I understand what I did to you, and that was terrible. And I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for you. You know. But anyway, that's not that conversation. But yes, release all energy except for the excitement that you're finally going to get a relationship with your parent. You're finally going to get a relationship with your child, okay? That's the only energy that you should be actively working in. I don't care if society tells you how you're supposed to move based off of your past. Today is today, and we do not define ourselves. Are we doing free will or God's will? If it is your heart's desire to have a relationship, then we're doing God's will, which means the only energy you need to move under is today's energy. So don't be looking at your parent like how you sitting there all happy and kiki, I got beef with you. What energy we moving under? We gonna get to the beef. But we're going to get to the beef once God has softened our hearts, once God has renewed our hearts and given us a new heart and a new space of understanding so that these conversations naturally happen. And I promise you, you will be sitting on the couch and you'll be like, you remember that one time? Da-da-da-da-da-da? Yeah, and I totally overreacted. And I want to apologize for that. Boom. Naturally flow into it. Something that you have been demanding that your parents apologize for. And parents are allowed to come to you and tell you, this is why I did what I did, and I used the tools available to me at the time to respond that way. So you owe me an apology too. My children have had to apologize to me too because, y'all overstep. And I may not have responded the best way, but we owe each other apologies. Hey, Mom, you remember, or Dad, you remember when I used to go in your purse and, steal your bill money? I'm so sorry for that. I saw how hard you used to work and the stress you had on you. So you have to understand, you have to create the space for that divine understanding to enter the chat. That's my point. If someone cannot understand, which means they have not taken it within themselves, created a space of empathy, and put themselves in your shoes, you can't force this, which means you can't force these conversations, but you can create space for these conversations to take place because God will give you the desires of your heart. So my suggestion to our sis in our community, my suggestion to anyone who watches this video, if it is the desires of your heart to have a relationship with your child, come together from today. Build friendship and trust from today. God will soften and renew your hearts and make you a new version of yourself. You've been new versions of yourself, you just have had no idea. But now you know. There's more to that, but get the book. Just let the conversation happen in such an amazingly beautiful way. And once you open to the space and you realize, I can't have these hard conversations without reacting defensively, because reaction is a choice. I have the emotional maturity to have these conversations. Now you can actually sit down and say, okay, let's hash this shit out. Now that we can, now that you understand both sides, because both of y'all have fought. I don't care, I was a child, you still were a fucking problem. You're still a problem. You would not be a problematic adult if you were not a problematic child. Let's keep it G. So, accountability on both sides, but once you acknowledge the space that you can have these difficult conversations, now you can do them intentionally, but that's because God granted you understanding, wisdom that is applied, renewed heart, emotional maturity. Long ass video, but you gonna get this information or not.